right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Veterans of Politics International's panel interview for Trustee, Cork County School District B. Remember, this is an interview. It's not a debate, so no candidate can direct questions towards each other or respond to their answers. Each one of you will be given 1 minute and 15 seconds for an introduction, and then at the end for 1 minute and 15 seconds for conclusion. And each one of you will get 1 minute to respond to the panel members' questions. I'm not going to be rude. You know, if you're in the middle of a sentence, I'll let you finish. But once my timer goes off, I'll ask you to wrap it up within 15 seconds, please, because we do have 4 people on the panel. All right, so first thing, too, with the first question that's asked from each panel member, we'll give a quick 15 seconds about us, just so you guys know who we are as well. So my name is Jim Jonas. I'm the host of Veterans in Politics International video and internet talk show. Been doing that since 2008. First question I have for you is, and it's going to go to every candidate, what would you guys do to get in contact with the 67,000 Cork County students that the school district cannot get a hold of right now? With the COVID-19, there's actually 67,000 students they can't contact. I'll start with you, Mr. Hill. Please start with your minute and 15-second introduction, and then go ahead and answer the question.
Okay. Excuse me. My name is Cortland Hill. I'm a Vegas native. I was raised here in North Las Vegas. I graduated from Las Vegas Academy. I was in the band. I played the tuba since the 6th grade. You know, I thought it was cool. Nobody objected it, so I ran with it. I attended the University of Nevada in Reno. You know, I just moved back to Vegas actually the end of 2018. I told myself if I was to move back home, it would be to make my community a better place. That's how I ended up in this very seat right here, because that's what I've been aiming to do. That's what I've been doing. And that's what I strive to do, win, lose, or draw. I currently work juvenile probation, so I deal with a lot of teenagers in this district on a weekly basis. Just listening to some of their stories and being a product of this school district myself, I understand what they go through, and listening to their parents as well, I understand. So honestly, I'm just here to leave this earth a little better than how I found it. And I'm starting with the community that I was raised in. Honestly, to contact those 67,000 students that the district has not been able to contact yet, as we can see, it's almost impossible to contact them all, but that doesn't mean that, you know, we would have to stop trying. The only thing that I can think of to do that they haven't done is to continue to try. Continue making the phone calls to these numbers, continue sending out emails, maybe even asking different community leaders and activists to get involved. Maybe they know certain people. I know not everyone has access to internet and telephones, unfortunately. So our best bet is just to continue trying. No kid deserves to be given up on. So as long as we try, you know, that's what I would do, is just to continue to try until something gives in.
My name is Katie Williams. I am not a Vegas native, unfortunately. I kind of wish I was, because this place is pretty awesome. I was actually born in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I lived there till I was 13. I was adopted, and I was moved out to Illinois. So I grew up in Southern Illinois, lived in Peoria, Springfield area, so kind of a little bit urban place. I joined the military on my 17th birthday, so I've actually been in for 13 years. I deployed to Afghanistan. I am married. I have one daughter. I have 2 German Shepherds. And I like to, CrossFit and work out, So it's very different. My life is very interesting. I think most people kind of know who I am. Some people for the good, some people for the bad. I'm a very outspoken person. I pretty much speak my mind when I feel like it. I try not to be outwardly rude. That's never my intention. But my husband is a paramedic, understands that, I travel and I move around, and I just always wanted to, like Cortland said, make the place better than when I found it. I've worked in the military for so long, and as an active duty personnel right now, I actually worked in recruiting, which has a lot to do with high schools and teenagers and children. My daughter is 4 and will be entering into the school district next year, and I think one thing what people don't realize is with these 67,000 kids that are hard to get a hold of is that maybe they don't have mom and dad that are right next to them all the time. It's unfortunate and it's sad, but even as a teenager, I grew up with very absent parents, and they probably never even knew when I skipped school or when I went to go hang out with my friends or when I missed my curfew because they just weren't around. And I'm no stranger as a recruiter to walk up to that kid's house and knock on his door or her door and check out and see where they're at. I think working in a community that you live and love, it's important to actually be next to those kids and have those kids know that they can reach out to you if there's any time period where they just don't feel like they can trust the adults around them.
My name is Chris Shank. I am a native of Las Vegas, born and raised, proud graduate of Rancho High School. I love this city. I love everything about Las Vegas. The business that I'm currently in gives me the opportunity to speak with a multitude of school personnel, whether it's administrators, teachers, support personnel, specialists. I deal with them almost on a daily basis, and it has given me a real insight into what's going on in our school district right now, what the frustrations are, what the really amazing things that are happening in our schools are. And with the dysfunction, I guess is the right word that I want to use, with the current school board, the infighting, the bickering, just the bad perception that the public has about the school board, that's what made me decide I wanted to get involved with this. I am not a professional politician. I have no intention of using this office as a springboard to some other political office. And I'm a very results-oriented person. My philosophy is, if I can't make drastic, tangible improvements in 4 years, I'm not the right guy for the job. Somebody else will have to come in. As far as the 67,000 students, the difficult thing with that is a lot of those students are probably disengaged purposefully. They don't want to be contacted. They don't want to continue with their classroom education for whatever reason. And the onus, and that shouldn't be an excuse to just write those kids off. I think we do have to go out door to door. The problem with that is who's going to be that person that goes out and knocks on those doors. To expect that of the teachers might be a little unreasonable. I think using some of the resource officers, the school district police, they're already working, they're already involved with that. Whether that's a tangible, realistic idea, but the only way to really contact those 67,000 kids is direct contact. Social media, phone calls, emails, it's not working.
Hello, I'm Jack Stanley. I'm the last one on the lot here. And it's a privilege to be here. I appreciate y'all putting this forum together. It's a true opportunity for me, especially because there's a connection between the military and being a veteran and my pursuit of education and being involved in the community. It's ingrained into us. And you know that they tell us from the beginning, we don't have a right to criticize without practicing our obligation to contribute. And we should just keep our mouth shut, because who really cares about your complaints? If you had an idea how to make the place better, now we're all ears. So I'm hoping I can find a lot of ears, and I hope I can do what I can do to make their community, to make our school system especially better. You know, traveling around the world, I'm a retired Air Force, traveling around the world, and each time we PCS, we go through that great challenge of finding a place for our children to be educated and finding the best education that we can get them into based on what's available. And every time we move, there's a new challenge, and I get better at it. Each time we move, we know how to find that school faster and how to find that house faster. But by the time we really get good at it, our kids are done. Say, so how do we help the next one? That can't be me already.
Sir, it's only a minute.
But if it is, then how I would connect all the students that haven't been able to be connected with is, as been mentioned, the students have a built-in microorganism of communication, most of which us who are older can't begin to understand. I just know it exists. They know each other. They know how to get a hold of each other. They're all talking right now through all the various systems, from TikTok to Insta to Snap to things I have never heard of, but I wish I would have, because I could monitor them. But so what I would do, I delegated it down to parents, who are, of course, the next best thing to the students. And through that, I think we could quickly reach out and touch and find out and make a direct contact with each of our students. I would delegate the responsibility to the teachers, to their teachers, and let them spearhead this initiative to make sure that every student has been gotten in contact with, first to say, how are you? And second, are you tracking on this online thing?
Thank you. Frank.
That was fast.
I'm Frank Schweitzer, Veterans in Politics. I am a family court activist. I help them with family court and issues like that. I'm also a father. So everybody that's come up here today has talked about education and protection of the children. The children are the asset, the children are the goal. And not many people have given us a proper way in how to protect that asset or that goal. Everywhere else that we protect our assets, whether it be important people or our money, we used armed personnel to do so. The Virginia Tech coward killed 30 plus students at 2 different locations before the police, the school police, could respond to him. So we're going to start here. Would you be against a bill, or would you be for trained personnel with proper backgrounds, whether it be veterans as janitors or veterans who are teachers, carrying weapons concealed so the students don't know on their person, or even having teachers who want to take proper training and background checks to carry weapons on campus to protect those assets? Would you be for or against?
With you using the term proper training, I'm 100% for it. You know, if there's proper training in effect for everyone, whether it's the teachers or the veterans or whomever, you have my 100. I'll be 100% in agreement with that. I think that would be amazing, because, like you said, we need to protect our kids, and why not start here?
So I'm going to say very simply no. I'm not against any legislation like that. I am a very, very big pro-2A advocate. My house has many guns, and my 4-year-old knows where they're at. She does not have access to them, but we are training her as we speak, right? It's at 4 years old, training her proper safety equipment, where to point a weapon, where not to point a weapon, and how to. You know, I had the distinct privilege to actually meet someone named Jeff Kyle, who's Chris Kyle's brother. Speaking to him, and when they learned how to, you know, hold guns and carry guns to school, it was a great time back then, honestly, sometimes. I think that kids are better protected with guns. That's just a personal thing for me. I don't think that we should force teachers or administrators if they are not comfortable with the idea of holding or possessing guns, but I don't have any disagreements with bringing guns into the school, teaching people how to use them, even having veterans come in and teach them, can still carry course people and come in and use them. I think it's the best and safest way possible.
I agree. I hold with that adage, the only effective way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And I think there is a lot of personnel in the schools right now who would be very much for legislation that would allow them to not only carry, but to get additional training on how to handle crowd control and how to create hard lockdowns within classrooms. And I think it's not only a good idea, it's essential. And there is a population out there of people that want to get involved in this, whether it's retired police officers, retired military. They want to get into the schools and they want to help. And I don't see any reason to hold up legislation like this.
Hello, Jack Stanley. I'm all in favor of what you proposed there, Mr. Switzer. I have proposed it myself. I'm the senior aerospace science instructor at Shadow Ridge High School. And I learned the rules, and I'm brand new. It's my first year, so I started learning about who's got the defense mechanisms and they said, well, they're the police, and where are they? And they're like, well, they're in that corner over there in that office, and they're in that corner in that office over there watching radars. I'm like, well, what about right now if someone breaks out in the middle of our open common area, which is the same for almost every town? What happens in every school? What's going to happen in 10 seconds? And I don't know. We hope someone takes it down. I'm like, well, I was just thinking about us. We're military trained, and we're 4 strong. I have 3 fellow instructors with me. Everyone has to get certified to even be in. We got to get TD-214 ready to go. That's why we can carry a license to conceal automatically. I'm like, why don't we have the people who are already trained at least have that accessible to them under wise decisions, important measurements and countermeasures for safety that's got to be, but that we could quickly respond and wisely.
Okay, good answer, Mr. Stanley. My name is Michael Yupko. I'm a first-generation college graduate, criminal justice degree and psychology degree, Bowling Green State University back in Bowling Green, Ohio. And grew up that area. 1986, became a police officer in South Carolina. It's first job out of college. 5 years later, the FBI was hiring, and other agencies. I got hired by the Bureau. I put in for Miami and Tampa, and they sent me to Las Vegas. I've been here since 1991. Spent several years with the Bureau and found out that wasn't the best way to make a difference, pushing paper, so to speak. So I became a licensed process server in private eye. I did that for 15 years. I tend to ramble on. I tend to be the chatterbox, as I've been accused of, which is fine. I plead guilty. But I know that when you mentioned Chris Kyle, I brought that up in the previous panel, is, his dad sat him and his brother down and said what? 3 types of people: shepherds, sheep, and wolves. You're not going to be wolves, meaning predators. You're not going to be sheep, because that's weak. Sorry. You're going to be a shepherd. And he taught his kids how to do it. The FBI is a gun culture, okay? You get to a certain point, and what you learn is it's like a nuclear weapon. You have it. You're glad you have it. You sleep better at night. You pray to God you never have to use it, but if you need it, you have it. And there's whole kinds of ideas of, as I know Frank brought up, about shootouts in gun-free zones. But getting back to the question that I want to ask, I wanted to make sure that I got that out there, that I want to make one digression, and I don't mean to offend Cortland and Katie and Mr. and Chris, but I'll say that in my research in the last week, the only person on this panel right here, candidate, who filled out the Ballotpedia's, sorry without my glasses, candidate connection survey was Mr. Bradley. And those questions are not softball questions. So the Vote Smart Nevada, or the Ballotpedia, ballot, B-A-L-O-T-P-E-D-I-A, go look at what Mr. Stanley filled out. Those questions are not softball. So I encourage you to do that. It gives us more information, so we only have an hour to try to learn that. And that takes a lifetime to learn about somebody. Ask my wife, she'll tell you. So my question would be kind of threefold. One, and I know it's a lot of questions. One, recently I discovered, and I'd like to know what you plan to do when you get on the school district board for District C as a member of a team. Why do we not conduct exit interviews with teachers? We know the exodus, the disappearance, the frustration of how hard it is to be a teacher. I know that. I love teachers, and then there were some I didn't like, but it's a hard career. Bad weather makes good timber, okay? I'm not a softie. If you want to do stuff, we got to let kids fail. Let them go through the tough times. Let them fail. But Why don't we do the exit interviews, and would you consider that? My second one is at a recent board meeting, a recent outside influence, I believe it was from Washington and I believe it was the ACLU, which you know where I stand on those clowns. They said that there's no longer no prayer before the school board meeting. I'm asking, would you be support or not a moment of silence for personal intentions? You know, everybody's got soft skin around here. We don't improve, we don't get better unless you really work hard. My third section, I know there's 3 of them, is recently they had a big meeting with the school teachers about the pay and the money they were deserved and did not get for whatever reason. And Ms. Brooks limited the public comment to 30 minutes. That's preposterous because people really want 2 things in life that I found out. As a business owner, as a subordinate, they want to be recognized, okay, and they want to be heard. So again, the exit interview question, would you have a moment of silence in lieu of prayer, since they've discontinued that at the school board meetings? And what about the, I'm sorry, what was the other one I said? And the, limiting public comment to 30 minutes. And I'd like Mr. Shank, I'd like you to go first, sir.
Oh, each of you guys will get 2 minutes, and that's approved for.
Yep, sorry about that, I got them all out. You're fine.
Thank you for those questions. I think those are all great questions. First of all, with regard to exit interviews, I was talking about exit interviews on some of my Facebook posts back in February. I don't understand why the district isn't doing it. It's common sense management. When somebody chooses to leave your employment, you need to know why they're leaving. You need to know what it is that you could have done to improve it. You need to know, is there something that we could do for that person that would encourage them to stay? In my opinion, the greatest issue that is facing the Clark County School District right now is personnel issue. It's not having enough teachers. It's not having enough substitute teachers. It's not actively looking for ways to create cultures in schools that are inviting and encouraging and welcoming to get teachers to stay. There's a lot that can be done there, and exit interviews to me is a very simple first step. The last part of that question was with Lola Brooks and her hard-fisted way of managing these board meetings and not allowing people the opportunity to speak. I know that there are Nevada open meeting laws, and I know that there are things that govern how meetings are supposed to take place. But the board, with consent of the 7 members that are part of that board, could extend public comment. I also think what's missing is, when is the last time Lola Brooks had a meeting with her constituency away from the board meeting? Board trustees should be meeting with their constituencies at least every month. Give them an opportunity to be heard one-on-one. And I would be for a moment of silence. I would be more in favor of the opening prayer again. I don't understand why Nevada policy is being dictated by somebody. I think they were in Minnesota or someplace, Wisconsin. I think it's ridiculous. It just shows a lack of spine.
Okay, thank you. I'd like Ms. Williams, like you to go second, please. If you need me to repeat it, I'll repeat the 3 questions, okay?
So the first question was, I'm sorry, what was
Exit
it?
interviews?
So yes, being in the military, we do exit interviews all the time. We do them 15 months out, 12 months out, 9 months out. So I know because I'm the one that does them. And it's a way for us to change our policies. It's a way for us to change and work better and more effectively. I think the reason why the administration won't do it is because they don't want to get slapped in the face with the truth. Simply put, they just don't want to hear how they're failing, and they need to hear it so that they can be better. As a moment of silence, yes, I do agree that needs to come back to school. I think the Pledge of Allegiance should be mandatory, but that's just me. As a patriot, as a Christian mom, absolutely I do think it needs to come back. I do understand how some may feel a little kind of isolated because they're not a Christian or a Catholic or however they go with it. So I think a moment of silence is probably a fair compromise, I think. And as far as the the
public
board
comment
the
period being limited.
I don't think that should be limited. I think it just, you're there until you're done. I'm sorry, but you are there until you are done, right? Teachers spend 8 hours a day with our children. And I can tell you right now, as the mother of a very, very rowdy, rambunctious 4-year-old, I was not meant to homeschool her. I love her. But no. There are 5,300 people in the district that make over $100K a year, and not a single person is a teacher. Teachers start out $39,000 a year, and it's asinine that they even don't make that much money. I don't get it, you know. And 4-year-olds are pretty easy for the most part until there's 15 of them, you know. And I think anybody that's a father or a parent here can absolutely vouch for that. I don't think that anyone in the administrative position should be making over $100K just to file paperwork. I'm sorry, I just don't believe that.
I agree.
So,
thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Stanley, I'll have you go next.
Okay. You might want to remind me. First is that the prayer.
Exit interview. Why Clark County School District does not do those.
Start with the exit interview. I don't know why they don't do it. I might agree with you, though. Could be the reason why. I don't think we should do exit interviews. It's the biggest no-brainer anyways. Why aren't we open to criticism, critique, and understanding and perspective? Teachers are going to be most upfront on the way out the door. They got nothing else to lose. So, hey, put it on the table, friend, because that's priceless information. That's perspective we will not get any other way. If we don't get it when they're walking out the door, we are never going to get it. Okay, second one.
Is the moment of silence versus the no more prayer before the meeting?
I agree with you. Forget the moment of silence. We need the moment of prayer, and it needs to be spoken. And whoever got rid of this, I don't know who it was, but that would be one of the first things I initiate to reverse that. And I don't know if I told you, I'm a retired Air Force chaplain, so I'm a little biased towards that. But I'm used to giving official prayers before every official event. I know how this works. I know why it works. I know how to give it. I know how to be proper, how to be unbiased, how to not be discriminatory. I know all that about how not be denominational, how not even get religious. And I can still give a great prayer. My good friend, Chaplain Barry Black at the Senate, are they going to tell him to stop that too? Are we going to rewrite the Constitution? And I say, well, let's start with that, and then we'll get rid of the prayer.
Right. And the last one was do you believe the board should limit public comment with that, well, not just with the teacher issue, but any meeting to 30 minutes?
Not necessarily, perhaps. But I think we should limit to perspective, just like you're limiting my time right now to comment. I need to think through it. I need to be sharp. I need to be on spot and to give you the answer. 30 minutes should be enough, in my opinion. And if it's not, and people listening have good perspective, you're right, they're onto something, they need some more time, well, give them some more time. But let them be heard.
Okay, just to clarify, and I didn't get you, Ms. Williams and Mr. Shank, there were 15 teachers that got to speak 2 minutes. There were 41 others who either had to submit a survey or a questionnaire and were not able to speak. Wow. And they canceled the meeting for public safety, which was BS. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Hill, go ahead. 3 questions. Okay.
The first one, as far as why there's no exit interview for the teachers, kind of going off of what Mrs. Williams said, well, actually all 3 of them, I believe we serve a school district that loves praise, but the truth they shy away from the truth. And that's just on an overall basis. Being the 5th largest school district, but not being, one of the top 10 school districts in the country, I think that's unacceptable. Who better to ask, get the story from than the person on the front line, the person that was help writing the story, I believe exit interviews are crucial. They will help the school district grow. It will be criticism that we would need to become a better school district and to become a better people overall. The second question in regards to, sorry.
Well, they've outlawed or from
prayer.
Wisconsin and the ACLU, they stopped prayer. And I'm asking if you want to call it a euphemism, a moment of silence. Do you agree with that or not? Call it a moment of silence if you want to call it.
I would totally think there should be a moment of silence. I understand that we are a very diverse school district, a very diverse country. You have people from all different backgrounds, whether it be cultural, religious, and what have you. Not everybody prays the same way. Not everybody prays. Some people want to meditate. Some people just want to get their mind right. And some people actually do want to pray. So I think that moment of silence will be crucial. It will give our students a chance, our teachers a chance to stop before they get the day started and get their mind right. So I would definitely be in for prayer and a moment of silence, either or.
And then the last one was the current leader, Miss Brooks, I call her leader, I should use that term loosely. She limited the public comment to 30 minutes for 15 teachers when there were 41 more waiting. What do you think, or will you be able to support or not support the 30-minute limit? Or would you see that in certain situations we should let people vent?
Yeah, so Madam President, as they call her, Madam President Brooks. Okay.
You're welcome.
No, I'm mocking Dr. Jara, but I feel like if you're on the board as well as the superintendent, you're here for the students, the parents of the students, and the faculty, the teachers mainly. And to limit, what they have to say versus everything they go through, I think that's BS. I totally feel like kind of like what Mr. Stanley said, like, yeah, you can limit them to 2 or 3 minutes, but don't limit the overall session to 30 minutes. I just feel like that's disrespectful. There's way too many people that have too many things to get off of their chest to just have 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Gianno Amato. I was born and raised here for the last 39 years. Right now, I purchase vehicles and resell them. I've been involved with the veterans in politics for approximately the last year. So my first question is, every year there's a conversation about education and where we're going to get the money in the legislature. In the legislature, it seems like it's never going to happen. So where do you guys suppose that we're going to get this money from? Go ahead, Mr. Hill.
Are you asking like where my guess to where it's coming from, or where do I think?
Well, I'm asking, what are your ideas? Like, how do you think that we're going to get this extra funding that we need for the education here in Nevada?
Well, I would have to say that all these giant corporations in our city, on Las Vegas Boulevard alone, now we have the Raiders here, Golden Knights here. I'm totally, if they wanted to give a certain percentage of earnings from these different organizations and give them to the school district, I would be in for that. I understand, that's people's businesses and their money, and people may be against it, but I feel like if you're going to make money off of our community, the least you can do is put a little money into our students, into our school district, because like you said, it's not coming down from where it's supposed to be coming from. So if we don't help ourselves, and if we don't get our community involved, then who else is going to help us?
Okay, Ms. Williams.
So this is kind of a rant that I have. This is something that is really near and dear to my heart, because when I moved to Nevada and people told me that marijuana was legal here recreationally and that money was supposed to go to the school, and yet the money does not go to the school, it goes to the state. And then I found out that Dr. Jara, he makes, last year in 2019, made $432,000 with his salary and his benefits. Along with that, I don't understand why he makes that much money. I'm not saying that he's not worth his weight in gold. He's a very intelligent man. However, I do not think that he needs that much money. I mean, and what's unfortunate and sad to me is that our current board that sits there right now is the one that approved that salary bump. They make $9,000 a year, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only candidate that has already said that I'm going to just donate my salary back if I win. It's $9,000 a year. I understand it's pennies compared to what they need, but at least it's something. And now, as far as getting more money, unfortunately, I don't have that knowledge yet. I really wish I did, because I would just give everything I could if I needed to. So.
Yeah, school funding is it's a tough issue. Currently, our primary sources of funding for the school right now come from sales tax, property tax, mining tax. There's some additional fundings that comes from things like excise tax and franchise tax. So everything is basically a tax that's coming in. And the challenge is going to be to find a sustainable source of revenue that the district can not only count on, but they can budget around. I am not in favor of increasing sales tax again because I think that hurts business, and I'm a small business, and I don't want that additional expense that I have to pass on to customers who are going to turn and jump on the internet instead of coming to a brick and mortar store like mine. And I don't think property taxes are the way to go because I think everybody that lives in Las Vegas needs to have a little bit of skin in the game. Everybody needs to be contributing something to the schools because the success or failure of our schools impacts everything. It impacts new business coming in. It impacts everything. So I would be looking at things like, some kind of outside the box stuff that I've heard from some of the charter schools is tuition for programs within the schools. Like if your kid wants to do an advanced program or AP programs or something like that, then there's some skin in the game. There's a little bit of tuition, and it doesn't have to be an overburdensome amount, but you multiply that by the 300 and some thousand students that we have in the school, that gives everybody a little bit of skin in the game. But it has to be outside the box stuff. It has to be non-traditional sources of revenue that aren't just room taxes and gaming taxes and property taxes and sales taxes. It's got to be more inclusive than that.
Hello, Mr. Amato. Thanks for that question. And I just give a short answer, which is more money doesn't mean better anything. Just doesn't. And a lot of people want to say, well, we just had this, we just had more money. That's usually the biggest thing that people jump to when we got a problem. We say, we don't have enough money. And I just fail. That's called lack of thinking, if you ask me. And when it comes to my experience in the military, what they do, they give us a mission first, and then they tell us how much money we get to do with it. And that's the end of the discussion. We got to make the two fit. We figure out a way to make it happen and do the best while we're doing it. And if we got a certain, there's two different issues. That's why I didn't know which one you want me to target. If you say, well, we have a funding issue, not enough funding, well, I can talk about that, and I can give you a lot of creative ways how to bring in more money. But I would still come back to the bottom line is, okay, now we got more money, so what? Now what do we expect out of it? I hope we expect better out of the more. But more times, 9 times out of 10, you ain't going to get that. You're not going to get better. You just have spent more money.
Great answer. So my next question, since you guys are going to be, you guys are trying to be the trustees, the next one's about where your compass moral is, okay? So what I want to know is, what do you think about this current administration's policies where they're ripping children away from their parents and then giving them a foil blanket to sleep with while they're incarcerated? First, Mrs. Williams.
So, as you know, I'm still actually active duty in the military, and unfortunately, I would have to decline this question, and it is because I cannot compromise myself as far as my current service to my country, so I apologize that I can't actually answer this question.
Are you referring to the current national administration and their policy on border enforcement? Yes, and how they're dealing with that? I think we have to have borders. I think we have to have borders that are enforced. And I think people who cross the border illegally, there needs to be a consequence for that, or it's not going to stop. There's going to be no stem to the tide. As far as parental units and children being separated at the border, I think the media has blown that out of proportion. I don't know. I don't have firsthand knowledge whether that's happening at the border or not. And I'll be quite honest with you, I don't believe mainstream media reporting on the issue. But it's no different than somebody who robs a 7-Eleven and gets sent to jail and he's separated from his kids. illegal actions have consequences, and sometimes those those consequences are you're separated from your friends and you're separated from your family. The best way to avoid that is not to not enforce the law, it's to create a deterrent so people stop breaking the law.
Mr. Stanley?
Mr. Ramada. I'm not sure I understood the question, but my quick reply, you can just tell me if along on the line, is I sense it's a political question too. That's why I understand what you're saying. I can't answer. I can't go political, and I don't school board, I don't want to go political on it. But if I go to just your question itself, that's a really easy one to answer. It's a no-brainer. And like, who in the world would be in favor of that? I can't imagine anybody.
Which part?
To your question.
Yeah.
About removing children and separating families at the border, and that overall approach to what you said, it would be in favor of it. I can't, of course I'm not in favor of it.
Okay.
There's not a cell in my body that'd be in favor of that.
Okay, great answer. Mr. Hill?
Yeah, that's a tough one, but like Mr. Stanley, you know, it breaks my heart when I hear that. I understand that illegal actions have consequences, but I have a 3-year-old son myself, and I imagine, you know, me being ripped apart from him, and, you know, him sleeping in a room with a bunch of other kids with a foil blanket, and I have no way to contact them or get them, whether I did something illegal or not. You know, that would drive me crazy. So I'm not even 100% sure, you know, what my answer is. I just know that I'm against it. I don't think it's right. You know, I understand why it's happening, you know, but it's just not cool. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, so each one of us will ask one more question. I apologize, I know 1 minute is very short, but it's getting late in the day, and I want to make sure that you guys get enough time. With campaigning being as difficult as it is right now, I want to make sure you guys have enough time to address the camera so people can get involved with your campaign. Okay, so my question is, as a school board trustee, what would you do, or in this would take some collaboration on your part, what would you do to address, they call them couch surfers. I don't know if you are aware, but I'll explain what it is. It's children that are homeless, and so basically what they're doing is they're basically going from other friends' couch to couch, and other people and their friends. And it causes a real problem, especially since one of the reasons that we rank so low nationally, one of it is chronic absenteeism. Well, if you don't have a home, you're probably going to chronically be absent from school. So I'll start with you, Mr. Hill. What would you do to address this problem?
Well, I actually been doing my research and my homework on the crisis that the Southern Nevada is having with the youth homelessness. I've been working with the organization called King of Jewels, and we've been working with the Nevada Youth Homeless Organization. The blueprint that we have and that we're working on is trying, which is the hardest part, like we mentioned earlier, trying to reach each student individually. Some people are against that because they're like, that's going to take forever, that's impossible, but we can't always do everything by the masses because each kid matters individually. You know, it wouldn't be something that can be solved overnight. But I'm looking forward to, as weird as it sounds, I'm looking forward to the trial and error of giving it a shot. Because, you know, if you don't have anywhere to go, if the only place you're safe during the day is at school, you know, after school, before school, you're out on the streets fending for yourself at 14, 15 years old. Like, how can you focus on studying or homework? So it would be something that's going to be, that can be addressed, but it will definitely be a hard fix. But I'm down for the challenge.
So this question's kind of hard for me in a sense that I was one of these kids. Like, I couch surfed quite a bit when I was a teenager. My mom was constantly gone, and my dad also was a truck driver. So he'd leave assuming that I would go to school, and I sometimes did not. And so I didn't have a lot of people that reached out to me as a teenager. In fact, when I was a senior in high school, I almost didn't graduate, not because my grades were bad, but just because I just did not go to school because nobody was there enforcing it. You know, my sister and I kind of raised ourselves a little bit for the most part of our life. You know, we were adopted when we were teenagers, so it was kind of a weird situation for all of us. With that being said, I really do agree with Mr. Hill. I think that even though it's something that's never been tried, I think it needs to be tried. And if we don't save everyone, but maybe we get to save some, I think the effort is worth the reward.
So I'm seeing two issues here. The first issue I'm seeing, as far as chronic absenteeism is concerned, I think we need to be a little more intelligent about how we measure chronic absenteeism. And if we're talking about homeless students, that should not be part of that metric, so that does not affect the school's star rating, so it doesn't affect the school's funding. It would not be an issue to target those kids that are struggling. And I've had the opportunity to work with an organization here in town called the Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth. And they do amazing things for the homeless kids in this valley. But they're running into roadblocks in trying to get into schools and present these programs and present these services that they offer these kids. And it makes me want to pull my hair out. Why in heaven's name would we say no to an organization like this, who isn't going to cost the school a penny, who already has a proven track record to address this issue? They want to get into more schools. They want to do more. We need to let them.
Thanks, Mr. Jonas, for the question. I have a big passion in this. It's off the charts. It's chronic is an understatement of the homelessness, the addressless students that we have that are couch serving, and those are the best ones that get to couch serve. And I got sad story after story that I could share with you. And I'm a big supporter of an organization called Family Promise that seeks to engage families and bring them to total independence, to bring them from dependence upon the government, taxes, and the system, to bring them into deep independence and entirely intact, to keep them together. There's a lot of programs for single women. There's a lot of programs for single men. There's programs for women with children. There's no program that, other than this one that I know of, that's for the whole family, that finds them intact and says, let's make the dream to keep them not separated, and but develop within them independence, to find them a place, to find them a job, to give them the education, to get them the resources we need to do, so they can be seen. They can have an address when we say, how do we find you? And answer that question the previous person asked.
Okay, so everybody's talking about accountability, budget, things like that, where we rank. So my question to every one of you is going to be, if a student can pass the final exam of a specific class, would you allow that student to take that test at the beginning of the year, then give them the credit that they've already earned for knowing the knowledge on the necessary course? And also in college, would you take out classes that are unnecessary to the degree that the student is trying to obtain? So for example, if you want business management, you don't have to take lesbian dance theory as an elective. You got to take business management related issues. After you get your degree, if you want to better yourself and take other classes, you pay for that. That's fine.
I took that class. It was great. No, I'm just kidding. I would, because I feel like if that student takes the test at the beginning of the semester, that takes them out of the class, and that gives, the teacher more one-on-one time with each student. Like with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students gone, in a positive way, that causes for more student engagement amongst the teachers. As far as the college taking away unnecessary classes or credits. I feel like it's just a scam for the college to charge you more and make more money off of you. Because I definitely took some classes that, like, what is this? Why? I'm a biology major. So I would be for that as well, taking that out, because it's just too much, It's just too much.
Yeah, I would agree with Mr. Hill. I think that if you can pass these courses by your first test, we actually have these called CLEP tests, and they're in colleges, and I think that they are necessary, and they're it's a very intelligent way to get students through the system, especially if they know what they're doing. I know of many people, even myself included, that when I don't feel challenged, I get lazy. And my husband was the same way. I meet students all the time, especially in the schools, and ROTC, they do great things in the ROTC, and I loved it when I was a recruiter. But they invested their time into the ROTC because they weren't challenged in anything else. And so these students don't have anything else grabbing at them. So if they can just get through the math class, get through the algebra, get through the geometry, biology, whatever it is, if they know the information, just let them get through it and let them be done with it. And then just go towards something that actually is going to help them get that college degree or high school diploma or anything they need to.
Taking out courses unnecessary to college degrees?
Yes, I'm okay with that too, because I had to take a digital media course and I have a criminal justice degree. So I almost failed that course.
Well, I'm going to echo what everybody else has said so far. I think it makes sense if a kid is proficient in a subject and is able to demonstrate that proficiency by taking an exam, then by all means, there's no reason or there's no point of making that child go through that class. And I also agree with Mr. Hill when he said that gives us the opportunity to allocate those school resources where they can be better used. I think we should only be talking about doing this with high school students, and I think we need to have plans in place for what we're going to do with those kids. I mean, I don't want to see a whole bunch of kids that are passing exams not have any sort of direction because they don't have the finances or whatever to take the next step and go into college. And I do think college degrees should be more focused. They do need to be more centered on exactly what it is that we're trying to accomplish with that degree.
Yes, I agree. It's a no-brainer too. Second question to it related, if I'm going to go into business as a lesbian dance instructor, then the two would relate. Otherwise, yeah, especially not, if they're required, that's where it'd be ridiculous. Requiring totally unrelated subject matter. It's a waste of space and brain space for those people that could be learning something intricately connected to what they're studying. And instead of giving them, we're making them learn other things that make no sense.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and Mr. Yepko will be the last panel question of the day, and then we'll give you guys a minute and 15 seconds for your conclusion. Mike?
Thanks, Jim. Well, I know, Ms. Williams, you brought up gun safety and gun knowledge and gun competency, if you will. I also believe that one thing that I was weak in when I was younger was financial literacy of all types. And I had to learn the hard way. So my question for all the panel members, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there is a board hearing this Thursday at 5 o'clock, okay? And I'm trying not to oversimplify it, but I went through the agenda. And not only the general fund and other funds, federal funds, state funds, wherever the money's coming from, that's been budgeted or not budgeted, that's going to contractors, subcontractors, and who knows where else it's going. But scheduled, I'm not going to say it's going to be approved, but it is on the agenda for this Thursday. There are 15 items involving expenses for the school district. Now, I think it's COVID-19, isn't it? Okay. Now, I'm not saying the school district should stop. It's not. Education's lifelong. Being passionate, trying to do the right thing is lifelong. $5,604,399.50 in expenditures. Now, you can go look at the agenda. I took the time somehow on my calculator, to add this up. And I'm not saying they're unnecessary. But if I'm incorrect, Mr. Shank, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. You are married to a Clark County administrator, correct? Okay. So you have special insight, as we all do.
Not how special it is, but I have a little bit of insight.
Well, and I hope you take advantage of that. But my question is, if we're going to have financial literacy, it should apply to the candidates. My question is, if you want to look at the agenda, you're more than welcome to. I'm not going to go to the meeting. I'm just asking, how do we do less with less? Because we say you got to do less with more. We do less with less given these times. And I don't know how to do that, but I do know the reason that the Bureau focused on CPAs, Certified Public Accountants, which I'm not. I was just a general. I was lucky I had a great guy to get me in, but they hire accountants because what do bad guys do? They put money overseas, offshore. They know how to hide money, and they're making billions. So fill in the blank, money laundering, drugs, whatever. My question is, what do you plan to do when you get on the board to make those tough financial decisions? And I'm going to start with, I think I'll start with you, Mr. Shank.
I think we talked about it a little bit earlier today when we said more money is not always the answer. We need to be smarter with our money. And the process with the budget, when those capital expenditures and things come before the board, and the board is getting them, it's the very last stage of the process. It's contractors have been hired, and work is agreed to, and parameters of the projects are set, and then it comes to the board and they say yes or no to this. And quite honestly, the board is not in a position to say yes or no to this because they don't have any of the information. They don't have the knowledge with what's involved with those processes. So in my view, whenever we're talking about capital expenditures in millions and millions and millions of dollars, the board needs to be part of the initial process. We need to go in and say, okay, do we really need to re-landscape this particular school, or do we really just need to focus in on this? I think more information will give the board a chance to be more informed.
Okay, and just to add something for the last three answers, and I'd like Mr. Hill to go second. Okay, so one of the expenditures that's proposed on this Thursday's agenda is $425,000 for new buses, which will last the rest of the calendar year. All the other expenses are going to subcontractors, contractors, and I'm just looking and saying, well, what exactly does that mean? On the agenda, if you read it, that money, the other, I guess, $5.2 million, is only good for the next 10 weeks. So you're wondering where the money's going. So I'd like to go back, Mr. Hill, what's your response to how do you intend to handle the budget, and what are your recommendations for fiscal responsibility?
Excuse me. So for that, I honestly would need more knowledge on it to do more homework on that. I've never been a man with a lot of money, so I'm not the best person to ask what to do with a lot of money, but I see what you're saying. It's a very, how do I say this? Like when you're dealing with money, it's just a very, I guess, sensitive topic, like what Mr. Shank said. For the trustees, I think they should be involved with the initial process rather just the end game, so that we would be able to help flow how it goes, how it's distributed, and what's the overall best use for these millions and millions of dollars that gets approved.
Well, this is one meeting, so okay.
Right.
I'd like Mr. Stanley to respond, thirdly.
Let me make sure I understand it clearly. I'll start talking, you can correct me. First on funding, to me, everything should be tagged. Every expenditure should be tagged to an objective. There should be a mission and a vision clearly stated. To each of those would be objectives. To each of the objectives would become measurements of goals. All those would have numbers and be digitalized, and every penny should be attached to something. If it's not attached, it goes. It's got to be spent for a reason. That's objective, that's reaching objectives.
Right.
And if they're not reaching those objectives, it goes. It doesn't matter if we needed it or not. Well, we got extra money. Well, sorry, you should have thought about that when you started tagging money. But if it's not making sense, don't spend it. It's a waste of time and space, and people are working hard to pay their taxes. So every decision we make. Now, on the other hand, when we give them some money, we must make sure that we need to give them the authority to execute it in the way that at the lowest level possible they see to develop that for their program. We should give them all the responsibility, all the privilege, but all the accountability too. So when you're done spending it, we're going to come back to you and say, okay, where's your report? How'd you do it? Where'd you do it? What's this tagged to?
Right.
If it doesn't happen, we're going to fix this broken system.
Right. Well, I'm not saying every proposed expense is unnecessary. I just feel
Right, oh, yeah.
when it's, especially with COVID-19 and other issues, you got to find a way to pull it tighter. Okay, Ms. Williams, do you respond? Thank you.
So fiscally, I'm pretty conservative when it comes to money. I, being a mom and we're not rich, we just make every single dollar count. Dave Ramsey is our guru at that point. I think first and foremost, I don't understand why contractors and subcontractors are being hired before that even goes to the board. That should be a board authorized purchase every single time. Right. But I think the biggest thing is knowing if it is or not. And if it's not, we need to make it like that. The board the board decides basically everything. So why are we not deciding the budget? That doesn't even make sense. If we have $5.2 million going to the school district and we don't even know where it's actually going, being in the military, I can tell you right now, we worked in USPFO, which is supply for most people. And there were many times where we'd get subcontracting, contact sheets and they were just like, hey, this is going to cost $1 million. And we're like, okay, I guess, they didn't allow us to look farther into it. And we know that, if given the authority, people will raise the price because they know that we will pay it.
When you're elected to the board as a trustee, I expect you to do that.
Oh, I will.
I don't know if it's open bid. And second of all, who knows that contractor or subcontractor? I investigated corruption as an agent. There's influence peddling, there's set-asides, there's
Correct.
tax. There's all kinds of ways to make money.
And at the end of the fiscal year, everyone's just like, nope, we got all this money.
And again, I hope all of you have the backbone, the intestinal fortitude to ask those tough questions.
Correct.
We want you to be a leader. I don't want somebody just filling space, a bureaucrat. I want leaders, and I expect that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank everybody thank you guys for coming out. We do understand there's probably better ways to spend your Monday afternoon, but we appreciate it very much, you guys coming in and asking these questions. I know sitting in front of us and being limited with time and stuff like that is challenging, but I appreciate it. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and start with Mr. Stanley, and then we'll just go around the table this way. You'll get 1 minute and 30 seconds to just give the viewers and listeners your contact information and why you think you're the best candidate.
Thank you for the time. Thank you for hosting this again. I would, when I moved here a few years ago and had to find a school for my children, and we looked for where the best places were to go, I faced what I've faced at so many other places. The challenge of the places closest to the base were the worst place to get educated for my kids. So how far away do I have to live? Every base I went to was the question, is it going to be an hour? Is it going to be an hour and a half? Because however far it is, that's where I'm going to move, because my kids deserve it. But I'm saying, what can we fix this? Why can't we make the schools around the bases the best places to be? It would benefit so many people, not just the families who are moving in. It'll benefit the entire community around the base. It'll raise the level of the importance of the base to the community and commerce. And if that would be one of the first things that I work on, is to make those bases, to make the school systems and the communities around the bases the best ones there are.
All right. Contact information. Did you give that?
You can contact me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Jack Scott Stanley without the Y. I'm on Facebook, Jack Stanley for District CCSDB. And on the internet, jackstanley.org. And on the phone. And you can get my phone number anywhere, but I'm not going to tell you here.
Okay. Sounds good. Fair enough. Mr. Shank.
Okay. As I said in the opening, I'm not a politician. I have a real heart for what's going on in our schools right now. I've been talking about these issues since November of last year. I'm as transparent as I can possibly be with where I stand on things, the things that I think are important, the things where our focus needs to be. You can look at everything that I've written. Just go to shankforschoolboard.com. That will list, that will also allow you to link the Facebook page, and that'll show you everything that I've written to date. I agree, there is massive disparity in District B between good schools and really, really bad schools. And I don't think that this particular district is unique. And I think we need to find out the really good things that are happening in schools and implement those in the schools that are struggling right now. And I agree, the schools around the base are struggling right now.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Williams.
So again, my name's Katie Williams, and people who know me and have seen what I've done in my life, they understand that of anything, I am resilient and persistent. I will never back down from a fight, and I think that most parents and most teachers have the same questions we all do, or maybe we're just afraid to actually ask them. I am not afraid to ask questions. I am not afraid to speak my mind, and I really, really want better for the district. I want better for the whole community of Las Vegas in general. It's not just limited to District B. I think that we have a real problem here. I think that our students are really suffering. I think our children are really suffering, and most of all, I think some of our teachers are even suffering. Especially during this pandemic, there's a lot of different questions going around, and a lot of people haven't been contacted, and I'm scared for when the schools open back up and we see how many students don't come back. That's a big fear of mine. Sorry, but I'm sorry. But you can find me on katiewilliamsnv.com, and you have a link to all my social sites there. And if you do want to reach out to me, my phone number is 309-267-9508, and I welcome those calls. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Mr. Hill?
Yeah, so I would love to be a part of bringing a new culture to CCSD, a culture where parents and students and teachers know that they can trust their board, they can reach out to their board to get things done, they can depend on their board to get things done. A culture where we're all able to hold each other accountable for the greater good. You know, like I watch the board meetings, and when the public gets up to speak, there's kind of no solution for their questions or their statements. It's kind of like, oh, okay, they spoke their mind, next person. I don't think that should be, you know, just hearing how substitute teachers haven't been paid since December, or, you know, parents have students that are being harassed and manhandled in school, but nothing's being done about it. The principal saying it's a district problem, the district saying it's a principal problem. That, I think that's, you know, that's nonsense. If you're looking for me on social media, Facebook, Cortland Hill, Cortland Hill. On Twitter, it's Mr. Cortland Hill. On Instagram, you can find me _Hillionaire. It's like millionaire, but with the H. It's just a wordplay on my last name. My phone number is 702-677-9996. You can text me, call me, and I'll pick up. I'm a millennial, so my phone's always in my hand.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, that concludes our endorsement panel interview for Veterans in Politics International for Trustee, Clark County School District B.